Because I think that a lot of the harm that's done to people, the reason why they are dissociating away from like who they want to be is because of negative things that have come in their life. And I do notice a lot of people that are in the transmaxing community are coming from backgrounds that are more politically conservative. Not in the way that I'm an abolitionist of gender, right? Like earlier you said, like, is it neither or is it both? Personally, I kind of like the idea of both and neither at the same time. But like in many binary systems that involve gender, one of them is dominant and one of them is like submissive. So I think that the idea of remaining within a binary gendered system is inevitable for this system of like one being greater.
Is AGP why there are transbians? Is that the link?
I think AGP is a descriptive thing to describe just people that exist. And if you think about other psychiatric diagnoses, they work very similar. A lot of them are used to stigmatize, like the doctor is just stigmatizing you. They're trying to get you placed into like boxes. Okay. Yeah.
I understand. It's like when the doctor calls me schizophrenic, I say, fuck off. But then I call myself schizophrenic. I'm like, based.
Yeah, exactly.
How does identifying with this label help you?
Me personally, or just me like in general? I like this label because it allows me to help a lot of new eggs in the community. I don't know. So when I found transmaxxing, I don't remember exactly why I found it. I don't remember if I was researching AGP or if I was researching DIY, like do-it-yourself hormones. But transmaxxing is kind of like a pro DIY, pro like freedom, pro autonomy. And I like that. I also like the idea of helping new eggs that come into the community. And I know that a lot of the things that a lot of people in the transmaxing community are stuck on, like their like mental loops, are things that I also get either A, get stuck on, or B, have been stuck on in the past, like just the brain worms. And like that's most of what my YouTube is actually, is me just like talking about my brain and stuff and like trans stuff from like a socialization viewpoint. Because I think that a lot of the harm that's done to people, the reason why they are dissociating away from like who they want to be is because of negative things that have come in their life. And I do notice a lot of people that are in the transmaxing community are coming from backgrounds that are more politically conservative. I actually don't want to use the term conservative because not all conservatives are like this, just like 95% of them. More bigoted backgrounds. And even some of them do come from like liberal backgrounds, but liberalism is just conservatism. Conservatism is just regressivism. So like I like identifying with the term because it makes me feel like I can help more people, I think.
That's a good answer. Do you come from a conservative background?
Yeah, my family is conservative.
I want to figure out, do you have an opinion? Do you have any thoughts about TERFs? Because I mentioned this briefly, right?
Yeah, you did.
The TERFs are essentially accusing all trans women of subconsciously doing what you were proposing consciously doing, which is like this transition is really the attempt of men to infiltrate female spaces and to take their hard-fought social gains as women and reappropriate it as men. I was wondering if you've given that any thought.
I have given that a little bit of thought. My initial response to this is that the same arguments that people like to use against transmaxing are the same arguments that they like to use against all trans people, like you mentioned. When I think it's just like a phrasing around the way that they're looking at it. Like a lot of, I don't want to say mainstream trans communities, but I'm going to say mainstream trans communities are, okay, this is the other issue. There is no one trans community. So like me trying to say like, oh, the mainstream trans community doesn't make sense. A lot of people say that you have to have gender dysphoria to transition, right? Or to like be trans, you have to have gender dysphoria. That's like one of the common arguments. It's like transmedicalism says that. I don't really agree with that. I think that there are some people who might just be neutral with the way that they were born, but they might get euphoria from like transitioning, right? There's also people that are more into the idea of like identification without like medical transition or like without dysphoria. It's more so like claiming a label other than your assigned gender at birth, right? I'm also fine with this. Can you ask the question again? I got lost.
There really wasn't a question there. I was just trying to probe your brain for what you think about this sort of...
Oh, TERFs! That's right. I think it's the same arguments that people use against everybody. I am anti-binary, and I know that you are an anti-centrist, so you're incredibly pro-binary at this point in time. But I am kind of anti-binary in that, like, I don't think we should have differing levels of access or rights for people based on gender or sex. Not in the way that I'm an abolitionist of gender, right? Like earlier you said, like, is it neither or is it both? Personally, I kind of like the idea of both and neither at the same time. But like in many binary systems that involve gender, one of them is dominant and one of them is like submissive. So I think that the idea of remaining within a binary gendered system is inevitable for this system of like one being greater. I have an issue with like sex-based discrimination. I would imagine many TERFs also do agree that they don't really like the idea of sex-based discrimination, but they do like the idea of like sex segregated spaces. But like, I don't see how you can have sex segregated spaces without discrimination. But in like, I guess one of the arguments that some, like, this is just an argument I hear people say. I don't know if I agree with it at this exact second. I'm just repeating it. So one of the arguments is that like many men are like disserviced by like there being women only classes that have no male equivalent. And like the argument against that is that like on a societal scale, men have a lot more advantage. Men have more access societally. On like a local level, you have to like make up for it the other way, which I kind of understand that logic of like, if you're pulling too far one direction, you got to pull in the other direction to pull it over. But I think one of the issues, or this is one of the things that I see mainly men complain about, is that like with that rope, if it's tug of war, for example, like if you're too far tugged on the one side and then you tug it on the other side, you might end up too far tugged on the other side. So then like, I guess my solution to all of this is like, why are we playing tug of war in the first place? And why don't we just like work together to use this rope for whatever we want to build? Anyways, TLDR, I think TERFs are just being reactionary. There hasn't been too much critical response to transmaxxing from groups that I support the way that they think. Yeah.
The groups that you support the way you think haven't been against transmaxxing. Like what groups are you talking about?
The groups that are really believing in true freedom, not doublethink freedom, but like actual true freedom.
Which include?
You know, those, the ones that are there.
The ones that are there. Of course. It's all very clear to me now.
No, sorry. I don't like to identify myself like with politics, but
okay, don't. It's all right. You don't have to.
Yeah, it's not the side that TERFs are generally on, is how I'll frame that.
So you're, I see that you're also transitioning to becoming a leftist, the crypto leftist. Okay, I got you.